I watched my boss take a bow for my idea, and every clap in that boardroom felt like a slap across my face. That's the moment everything changed. My name's Ava Martinez, and I've spent the last 5 years climbing my way up from unpaid intern to lead designer at Brightforge Innovations, a small tech startup that's been my whole world. I'm the kind of person who believes in hard work, late nights, and doing things the right way, not shortcuts, not politics. I've sacrificed birthdays, weekends, even my engagement, all for a dream I thought I shared with someone who believed in me. That someone was Ethan Cross, my boss, my mentor, and until last week, the person I trusted most. When I first joined Brightforge, Ethan was everything I admired: sharp, articulate, and relentlessly confident. He had this way of making everyone feel like their ideas mattered, like we were all part of something bigger. He was the kind of leader who stayed late to order takeout for the team, who'd tell me, "Ava, your work is going to change lives someday." I believed him. So when we started developing Project Solis, a sustainable energy interface I designed from the ground up, I poured every piece of myself into it. We'd been preparing for months to present it to our biggest investors yet. This pitch was supposed to be my moment. Ethan said he'd handle the presentation while I finalized the prototype. I didn't think twice. He always presented our work. That's how it had always been. But that morning, when the lights dimmed and Ethan took the stage, something felt off. He didn't even glance my way as he launched into the pitch. My research, my designs, my story. And with each slide, it became clear. There was no we in this presentation. Just him. The investors hung on every word. They nodded, smiled, applauded. And when one of them stood to shake Ethan's hand, congratulating him on his brilliance, the room spun. Afterward, he clapped me on the shoulder like nothing had happened. "Teamwork, right?" he said with that polished grin. I laughed it off, because what else could I do? I needed this job. I needed the project to succeed. But later that night, while rewatching the recorded pitch on the company's internal drive, I noticed something Ethan didn't mean to leave in, a single chilling sentence buried in his speech. Something that made me realize this betrayal wasn't an accident. Not at all. I must have replayed that video 20 times. At first, I thought I imagined it, that I was just being paranoid after a stressful day. But there it was, buried between Ethan's polished lines and corporate charm. I've been developing this concept for years with my team's assistants. Years. That single word hit me like a punch to the stomach. Project Solis hadn't even existed a year ago. It was my graduate thesis, a design I'd pitched to Ethan when he was recruiting interns. He'd told me it was brilliant, said he wanted to help me bring it to life. And now he was rewriting history. Still, I wanted to believe it was a slip. Maybe nerves. Maybe he didn't mean it that way. The next day, I tried to talk to him. "Great job yesterday," I started, keeping my tone light. "But maybe next time, we could share the presentation credits." He barely looked up from his laptop. "Ava, you know how investors are. They prefer a single voice. You'll get your moment once we secure funding." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. That was new. Ethan's smiles had always felt genuine, warm, reassuring. This one felt rehearsed. Then came the small changes. Subtle, easy to overlook if you weren't paying attention. He stopped inviting me to investor calls. Claimed they were last minute, and nothing major. My design files, once freely accessible, now required his approval to open. And when I walked by his office, the door that used to stay open was suddenly always shut, muffled voices inside. The rest of the team didn't seem to notice. Ethan made sure of that. He started showering them with praise, handing out small bonuses, ordering catered lunches, all while I was being quietly pushed to the margins. "Don't overthink it," my coworker Jess whispered one night as we cleaned up after another late shift. "Ethan's under pressure. He trusts you more than anyone." I wanted to believe her. I needed to. But the more I looked, the more the cracks showed. In one of the prototype drafts, I noticed my name had been removed from the metadata, replaced with his. When I brought it up, Ethan laughed it off. It's just a formatting issue, Ava. Relax. That night, I opened my email to find a message from an anonymous address. Just one line, no signature. You should check the investor documents before it's too late. I stared at the screen for a long time, my pulse thudding in my ears. For the first time, I realized I might not just be losing credit for my work. I might be losing everything. I didn't sleep that night. That one-line email looped in my head like a warning siren. You should check the investor documents before it's too late. By morning, I was shaking from caffeine and dread. I told myself I was being dramatic, that maybe it was just a disgruntled ex-employee. But my gut, that quiet, steady instinct that had guided me through every decision on Project Solis, wouldn't stop twisting. So, I did what any rational person on the edge would do. I broke a few rules. Using my old administrative login, I accessed the shared investor folder, the one Ethan told me was restricted for legal reasons. Inside, I found a pitch deck labeled Final_Proposal at least a PDF. My heart pounded as I opened it. And there it was. Page after page of my designs. My concept models. My prototype schematics. Everything I had built from scratch. But something was missing. My name. Not once did it appear. Not in the credits, not in the team roster, not even in the file metadata. The document listed Ethan Cross as the sole creator and lead developer of Project Solis. He hadn't just stolen my work, he'd erased me completely. It felt like my lungs collapsed. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. 5 years of loyalty, of 2 a.m. breakthroughs and cold coffee and faith in a shared dream. Gone. All of it, stolen with the click of a mouse. I scrolled to the final page, the signature block for investor authorization. And that's when I saw the date. 2 weeks ago. Ethan had already submitted it. That meant the investor's funding, the biggest deal in Brightforge's history, was built entirely on my stolen project. When I confronted him, I wasn't calm. My voice shook. My hands balled into fists. Tell me the truth, Ethan. You took credit for my work, didn't you? He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled like this was just another meeting. Ava, he said smoothly, you're talented, but you're not ready to lead something this big. Investors want someone with experience. I had to protect the company. By lying. He sighed, as if I were the one being unreasonable. It's business. You'll thank me later. That's when something inside me snapped. Not loud, not dramatic. Just quiet. Final. Because in that moment, I saw him clearly for the first time. The charm, the mentorship, the fake promises, all of it was manipulation dressed as opportunity. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stared at him, every nerve in my body going cold. He thought he'd taken everything from me. He had no idea what I was about to take from him. I don't remember driving home that night. The city lights blurred into streaks of gold and white, and by the time I pulled into my apartment lot, my body was running on autopilot, just empty motion. I sat in the car, engine humming, staring at my trembling hands. All I could think was, he really did it. Ethan had taken everything, my work, my trust, my future, and wrapped it neatly in his name. The man who once said, "We're a team, Ava. I've got your back," had gutted me with a smile. When I finally stumbled inside, I collapsed on the floor, surrounded by scattered blueprints and notebooks. My whole life's work, now worthless. The silence was suffocating. Every breath burned. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. For the next 2 days, I didn't eat. Didn't answer calls. I just sat there, watching my phone fill with congratulatory messages for Ethan. Brilliant pitch. Can't wait to see where Solis goes. Each one felt like another nail sealing me out of my own creation. By the third night, I was numb. I opened the folder on my laptop labeled Solis, Archive, ready to delete it all. What was the point of holding on to a dream someone else had already claimed? Then, I saw it. A recording. One I didn't remember saving. It was from 6 months earlier. A late-night brainstorming session between Ethan and me. I clicked play. My voice crackled through the speakers. Ethan, if this works, it could change everything. For clean energy, for accessibility. He interrupted with a laugh. You're the heart of this project, Ava. Never forget that. The irony hit hard, but beneath it, something else flickered. Rage, yes, but also clarity. That clip was proof. Proof that he knew exactly what he was taking from me. Proof of who really built Solis. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. The grief didn't vanish. It hardened. Turned sharp. Focused. For the first time in weeks, I felt my pulse steady. I wasn't powerless. Not anymore. Ethan had taught me everything about the business. How investors think, how presentations are structured, how public narratives are spun. He thought he'd trained a loyal follower. He didn't realize he'd created his own undoing. I spent the next hours pulling together every document, email, design draft, and voice memo I could find. I backed them up on an encrypted drive, labeling each one with dates and timestamps. Every piece of evidence was another thread in the web I was weaving, and soon it would tighten around him. When the sun rose, I stood by the window, watching the light cut through the skyline. He wanted credit, I whispered to myself. Let's make sure he gets all of it. And right then, I made a promise. Not to ruin him out of spite, but to make sure the truth saw daylight. No matter what it cost me. Ethan thought I'd disappeared, that I was too humiliated, too broken to fight back. He wasn't entirely wrong. I had disappeared. But not in defeat. I was building something new, something sharper than anger and colder than grief. Revenge, when done right, isn't loud. It's quiet, patient, surgical. And I was done bleeding. It started with the paper trail. I combed through every file Ethan had ever sent me. Contracts, pitch drafts, emails. It didn't take long to find inconsistencies, mismatched timestamps, missing CCs, edits that conveniently removed my authorship tags. Each one was small on its own, but together they formed a timeline, proof of a deliberate cover-up. Next came the witnesses. I reached out to Jess, the only coworker who'd ever really seen how much I contributed. We met at a small cafe across town. The moment she saw me, her eyes filled with guilt. I knew something was off, she whispered. He started acting weird after your prototype demo. Like he was guarding it. I slid my laptop across the table, showing her the files. He didn't just guard it. He stole it. Jess stared at the screen, then nodded. Tell me what you need. One by one, a few others joined. Quiet allies who'd also been slighted or silenced by Ethan over the years. They didn't want revenge, but they wanted justice. I didn't blame them for the distinction. I just needed their statements. I knew Ethan was planning another investor meeting, this time to finalize the partnership and seal the deal. He'd bragged about it during a team call I wasn't supposed to hear. What he didn't know was that I'd gained access to the company's cloud system through an old testing account he forgot to disable. Using it, I uploaded one extra slide into his presentation deck, hidden behind the final page. It wouldn't appear until he reached the end and clicked through, live, in front of every investor. That slide contained a snippet of the recording, Ethan's voice saying, "You're the heart of this project, Ava." Followed by my name, my designs, my timestamps, my proof. It was a time bomb disguised as a PowerPoint slide. 4 days, I rehearsed my calm. My emails to Ethan were polite. My tone neutral. I wanted him comfortable, unguarded. And it worked. He even sent me a perfunctory message the night before the meeting. "Thanks for all your past contributions, Ava. I'll make sure your work continues to inspire." I almost laughed. Let him think he'd won. Let him smile for the cameras, bask in the spotlight one more time. Because tomorrow, when those lights came on, everyone in that room would see the truth. And when the truth hit, it would burn. The day of the investor presentation, Bright Forge Innovations gleamed like a monument to success. The glass conference room buzzed with energy, reporters setting up cameras, investors chatting in expensive suits, and at the head of it all stood Ethan Cross, perfectly composed in his tailored grey jacket. The star of the show. I sat in the back, invisible. He hadn't noticed me slip in. He wouldn't. I wasn't supposed to be there anymore, just a former employee, discarded and forgotten. But I wasn't there to be seen. I was there to watch. Ethan started strong, as always. Smooth, confident, the practiced rhythm of a man who believed he owned the room. And the truth. Project Solis represents a new era of sustainable energy, he declared, pacing slowly. A vision I've spent years perfecting. Every word twisted like a knife. The investors nodded, smiling, scribbling notes. Cameras flashed. And when he reached the final slide, he turned with a self-assured grin. Now, before we conclude. Click. The lights dimmed slightly as the last slide appeared, the one he didn't put there. For a heartbeat, no one spoke. On screen, the video began to play. Ethan's voice. You're the heart of this project, Ava. Never forget that. My voice. If this works, it could change everything. For clean energy, for accessibility. Ethan. Exactly. Your design could change everything. The sound echoed across the glass room. The investors turned, confusion rippling through them like a wave. Ethan froze, his confident posture snapping, his eyes flicking to the screen, then to the tech team. There must be he laughed, forced and brittle. A mix-up with the media files. But the slide didn't stop. Next came the screenshots, emails time-stamped months earlier, design drafts signed under my name, metadata showing the original creator, Ava Martinez. And finally, a side-by-side comparison, his final proposal and my prototype, identical in every line and circuit. The silence was suffocating. One investor, a sharp-eyed woman in a red blazer, leaned forward. Ethan, she said slowly, are you telling us this is your work? He stammered. It was a collaboration. Then where's her name? That was it. The unraveling. His mask slipped completely. He tried to call for security, but the PR manager was already pulling him aside. Phones came out, recording everything. The investors were whispering, the word plagiarism slicing through the air like glass. I stood quietly in the back, my heart pounding, not with panic, but with peace. Ethan looked up then, eyes locking on me across the room. His expression wasn't anger. It was disbelief. Like he'd just realized his favorite puppet had cut her own strings. He opened his mouth. Maybe to beg, maybe to blame. But I was already walking out. Behind me, the investors' voices rose. Firm, cold, final. Contract voided. Legal action. Credibility gone. As the door closed, his last words reached me, faint and broken. Ava, what did you do? I didn't answer. He'd wanted credit. Now he had it, for everything. The truth, the lies, and the collapse that followed. It's strange how quiet justice sounds. No fireworks. No applause. Just silence, clean, final, and heavy in all the right ways. In the weeks after the presentation, Bright Forge unraveled faster than anyone expected. The investors withdrew overnight. Legal teams swept in, demanding answers. Ethan tried to spin the story, said the files were misattributed, that I'd misunderstood our collaboration. But the evidence was too clear, too damning. Every timestamp, every audio clip, every design file told the truth louder than I ever could. By the end of the month, he was gone. Resigned, for personal reasons, the press release said. But everyone knew. He tried starting his own firm, but word spread quickly. No investor wanted a CEO with a plagiarism scandal attached to his name. The last I heard, he was consulting out of a shared office, chasing clients who never called back. And me. I didn't want revenge to become my story, I wanted my work to. With the investors' support, the ones who'd seen the truth firsthand, I relaunched Project Solis under my own name. This time, I presented it myself. I told the story honestly. How belief can turn to betrayal, and how innovation isn't just about technology, it's about integrity. When the prototype finally powered on during the demo, the crowd erupted. Not in pity, not in scandal, but in pride. My pride. And in that moment, I realized something I wish I'd known months earlier. Revenge isn't about destroying someone else's world. It's about reclaiming the parts of your own they tried to steal. One night, long after the launch, I got an email. No subject line. Just one sentence. You won, Ava. Happy now. It was from Ethan. I stared at it for a long time before replying. No, Ethan. I didn't win. I just stopped losing. Then I deleted it. No anger, no satisfaction, just closure. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't watching someone burn. It's walking away from the ashes without smelling like smoke. I still keep that old recording though. The one where he said, "You're the heart of this project." Not as a reminder of betrayal, but of how right he was. I was the heart. I always had been. And the heart keeps beating, even after the knife is pulled out. Speech balloon. Have you ever had someone take credit for something that was yours? An idea, a dream, or a piece of your heart? Tell me your story in the comments. I read every one. And if you want more stories like this, tales of betrayal, justice, and redemption, make sure to subscribe. Because sometimes, the truth deserves an audience. You said.